Welcome back to the Food on Demand podcast, where we dish up insights on the future of food relating to off-premises operations and the overall digital dining experience. I'm Bernadette Heyer, Managing Editor. And my usual co-host, Hans Lammerman, our food service and technology reporter, is out today, but he will be back on the next episode. I want to start off with highlighting our upcoming Food on Demand conference that's taking place May 5th through 7th in Dallas, Texas. We're very excited to be bringing the show to the area that has so many restaurant operators and innovation happening in the space. Please go online and check out our agenda. It is now live that showcases the 3 days of panels and workshops and excellent speakers we have lined up for all of you this year. A quick teaser is we'll be covering things like the future of delivery, where you can hear companies like Zipline, one of the world's leading autonomous drone delivery companies, and Coco Robotics, another leading sidewalk robotic delivery provider, really being innovative in the space of delivery. We'll also have several operators from across the board at our conference talking about all the best strategies that you can use in your own restaurant, such as operational strategies, what technology you're using to attract and retain guests. Catering is a big topic this year, marketing, loyalty, and so much more. All the buckets that are under the umbrella of a successful food delivery business. So please go check that out. And we'll now get into our guest interview. Well, I'm very excited to get in today's interview. We have Aalok Kapoor. He is the Chief Operating Officer at CookUnity. Thank you so much for joining the podcast.
Thank you, Bernadette. Always nice chatting with you.
Excited to have you. We've covered CookUnity in the past in interviews, and we're excited to bring it to the pod. So just a quick little background. CookUnity is a chef-to-you meal delivery service. Subscribers get access to over 180 award-winning chefs and a rotating menu of over 300 fully prepared meals delivered straight to their doors. Since launching from a small kitchen in Brooklyn in 2016, CookUnity has grown to kitchens across the U.S. and Canada, making these chef-curated meals convenient, affordable, and of course delicious. So I definitely want to get into that model, which is clearly working. A bit of background that was just released today, I believe, is that not only are you celebrating your 10th anniversary, but sales closed in 2025 with more than $750 million in annual recurring revenue, which is the strongest in the history, and delivered more than 43 million meals in 2025, which is an exciting number. So can you walk me through CookUnity's origin story, how you guys got started and where it is today?
Yeah, so I think, I always love it when Mateo tells this story, but I'll do my best at, explaining where he started. About 10 years ago, he had an idea, there were a bunch of business models emerging between Uber Eats and meal kits and all of that. And he had this idea where there's an intersection where we can get the chefs who are very restricted from, the restaurant business model because you're capped by the number of seats you have, the infrastructure you have, or the best case, the delivery radius around you. How do we get their meals to customers across North America and then eventually globally? So he started off in Brooklyn, setting up a small kitchen where he invited some chefs to come and cook. And he's like, you know what, I'm going to just sell your meals to customers. So we're going to do the best of both worlds. And we're not going to restrict it just to like a 2-mile delivery radius. We're going to see how far we can go with these from this kitchen. That was the origin story, right? And since then, I think the company just hasn't looked back. It's just grown from strength to strength. We've gone from that one small kitchen in Brooklyn 10 years ago to 8 kitchens across North America now. Each of those kitchens has obviously grown massively to, multiple tens and hundreds and thousands of square feet. So that's where we are today.
Yeah, and speaking about that chef to consumer model, can you tell me about how that works and how it creates value for both the chefs and the consumer end?
Right. I think the way to think about this is, I think maybe I'll start with what we're not a sort of production line, meal kit company, right? So what we don't do is cook the food ourselves. We are a marketplace where the chefs cook the food, right? Now, these are usually established chefs, some of the best chefs from the city, they have their own restaurants. And so what we do is actually we're the infrastructure provider for these chefs to really express themselves, right? What does that mean? So think about your life as a chef today. Either you have like a couple of options, not too many. One is you either work for someone else in a kitchen, or you take a lot of risk, raise some money, get some investors, set up a restaurant, and have a high failure rate. It's very stressful. Even on your best year, sometimes you don't make a lot of money, right? But we've created this business model is that if you're a chef, all you need to be good at is your art of cooking. That's it. So it's a plug and play infrastructure model where we do the supply chain, right? We have the customers, we do the demand generation, we do the packing, cold chain, logistics, delivery. All you have to do is know how to create a menu, stuff you've been trained in and like dreaming of for decades, hopefully, and have a team that can execute for you, right? On the consumer side, there's two things it does. One is currently, if you want restaurant grade food, it's very limited to the restaurant. So how do I get the best chef's meals? Not just from either I have to go to the restaurant, but I'm in like a 1 or 2 mile delivery radius. That's kind of my only options now. But now if I can be far away from Manhattan and I can get some of the best chef's foods from Manhattan delivered to my doorstep at a much better price and without all of those extra taxes and delivery fees, which super expensive when it comes to just meal delivery. So I think that's the value exchange on both sides. As far as the chefs go, I mean, it's such a no-brainer for them because there's very little risk in starting, but there's a lot of upside. And I'm sure we'll get into some of the numbers on what the chefs are making and how the businesses are scaling on our platform.
Yeah, and I'm excited to dive into that. Say I was like a new customer of CookUnity, from the sign up to when it comes to my door. What does that look like? Can you walk me through that?
Yeah, so look, I think one is you land on our website, right? And you'll go through an onboarding funnel, which is a quick set of questions we may ask you on, hey, how many people in your household, how many meals do you want to eat a week, and so on and so forth. Do you have any preferences? Do you have any allergies? And of course, you can skip all of this, as some customers do, because they have broad preferences and they're like, just show me the menu. Some people like to curate their own experience a bit more. Then what we go to is the funnel menu. So, we take your input, everything you told us, and we personalize a set of options for you for your first order. These are, of course, based on the input you gave us, but also a bit of what we know about what customers like, which chefs they like, which meals they like to try with. You place an order before a certain time for a delivery that week. So there's a sort of cutoff time. So if you want a delivery on Sunday, for example, you place an order by Wednesday at 12 o'clock, typically, right? The order goes through. Closer to Sunday, you'll get an email saying, hey, your delivery is on the way. Here's a tracking link. And the meal comes right to your doorstep, right? Fairly straightforward, fairly easy to understand. I think post that, what continues to happen is based on your preferences, what you like, how you rate meals, what you continue to select, search for. We have very strong personalization engines that keep feeding you menus and items that you really like. The biggest advantage, though, and what makes us very different, because we're a marketplace, we're able to have extremely high levels of variety. So many meal kit companies or kind of packaged food companies try this, but the biggest problem is like their variety cap is like 30 or 40 meals, right? Which gets kind of boring still. It's hard to pick like 8 or 10 meals out of 40 if you think about it. But if you have 400 meals that are made and designed by some of the best chefs in the city you live in, right? That's a completely different experience. And that gives the personalization engine so much more to work with as well.
Yeah, and that really answered my next question, which was about the personalization and the technology behind it to make this a frictionless ordering experience. Anything you want to mention on that front? Is it all through the online website? Is there an app? What does that kind of look like?
Yeah, both. We have a website, we have an app as well. You can use both. Either we have customers that use both. There are customers that are have never opened the website, only on the app, and the other way around as well. So the personalization, it takes into account a few things. One is, everything you told us when you signed up. There's also in your account settings things you can always update, right? So for example, like you're suddenly allergic to something, or you're changing your diet, you want to go low on carbs, or you want to avoid a certain type of meat, you can always update that. So we have that input. We have the input of how you rate meals, what you actually end up liking, which chefs you like, what kind of proteins you like, what kind of cuisines you like. And we have an algorithm machine learning model at our end that links these various inputs, that throws up a recommendation that you're extremely likely to like and order. So we see very definitively, like the recommendation swim lanes we have, the meals we show up, they tend to have a much higher repeat rate, a much higher order rate, and higher ratings as well. So our matching engine is working. I think the customers like it, irrespective of whether they know what's happening under the hood or not. We don't expect them to or want them to waste time on that. I think that's our job. And yeah, we're continuing investing a lot in that, and a lot of exciting features coming up on that front as well.
Yeah, are you, exploring, or maybe already this is a part of it, but AI component to some of those personalization or ordering assistant, things like that?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think, of course, very, very good question, very, timely. But there's various things we're launching on the product roadmap on the AI front. Maybe I'll just give you like a quick teaser, and when we do the product launch, you and I can chat again, so I can walk you through the demo. But there's a few things our customers just tell us explicitly and implicitly that they want, and it's all coming to CookUnity. One is people like monitoring their health and nutrition and macros, right? So we do have nutrition pages on each and every one of our meals, but now everything you eat will be auto tracked in the CookUnity app as well, right? So of course, if you eat a non-CookUnity meal, you can just enter it or take a picture or what have you, but everything you've ordered will be automatically tracked. And then shortly after that, so you'll have a health and nutrition dashboard. Very exciting. We have some exciting integrations coming up, which I can't tell you about yet, but I will soon as it's official. And then we have upcoming an LLM chatbot as well, right? That has memory, your preferences, your sort of health targets, and what you want to do, right? So now you're going to be able to chat with the app saying, you know what, I went for a girls' night out or a bachelorette like weekend with my friends. It was kind of heavy. I got to make sure I get back on track, and it knows already your preferences. You've given it this additional context, and it will give you a list of meals that fit that criteria, right? Without, like, you'd never eat a tofu, you don't like it, so I'm going to suddenly recommend that. So that context window remains. Your goals can keep changing, but it remembers all of that, and you just chat with it in natural language. So super exciting consumer facing, AI features coming up. So we're very stoked about that.
Yeah, very exciting. Definitely what I hear in my end is more and more personalized experiences is what people are expecting in the food on demand industry. And so I want to talk a bit about marketing, packaging, and kind of the customer experience. Any lessons learned you want to mention about those areas, what works and what doesn't work as far as for delivering those meals at scale?
Yeah, no, I think we've been very, very particular about improving this experience constantly. I think this is one of those areas where you have to keep chasing perfection, even though it's ultimately impossible, but you have to reduce the error rate to almost zero constantly. So year over year, our consumer experience, our packaging experience has just been improving. The tickets or the complaints have been reducing like 30-40%. They're really, really small now, like a fraction of a percent, but we keep investing in it. So as new technologies come up, we try to stay abreast of them. This could be anything from packaging technology to how to get it better, how to get the temperatures more correct, how to have redundancies on cold chain. Of course we have a cold chain, but how do you have like the first level, second level, third level redundancy to create that backup? Always experimenting with driver partners, the incentives we give them, how do we continue to improve that, work closer with them, set up, use technology, use data to figure out even quicker if something can be going wrong, can be intervened before it goes wrong on the delivery side, I mean. So a lot of technology investment there. a lot of math and algorithmic investment there as well, and then physical technology as well, right? Like actual packaging materials and staying on top of those as things advance rapidly.
Yeah, and I do know there's a focus on sustainability for sustainable packaging as well.
Yeah, always. Thanks for mentioning that. I think as we scale, especially in like you said, 43 million meals and hundreds and thousands, if not millions of orders, this becomes a very important topic for us, right? Things in sustainable packaging materials are also constantly evolving. So it takes a lot of focus and effort to stay on top of that and integrate that into the supply chain. These are very non-trivial moves when you're running such a big operation and a big logistics and supply chain operation. But we really always try to pilot with various materials and various programs, see what works, and then scale it. But it really is a never-ending process because these physical technologies keep improving year over year. So you have to keep adapting and adopting the new ones. Yeah.
And speaking about trends in meal delivery in general, you mentioned what sets you apart from other meal kits out there. How have you seen the meal delivery industry change over the past decade, and what are some trends kind of shaping that sector today?
Yeah, I think look, there's a few sort of layers to this, right? So at the highest level, I think there's a lot of tailwinds, right? I think 62% of Americans, or two-thirds roughly, of North Americans order food digitally now. I think something like 20% of them do have some version of a weekly subscription. This is definitely a trend that's exploding. But now that it is becoming more the norm and not like, a niche solution, I think people's expectation and standards go up with that, right? So there was a point in time where like cheap convenience kind of solved the problem, but I definitely see that moving to that's not good enough suddenly. I do want that quality. I do want that authenticity, which is, I think, a big reason why CookUnity is doing so well, because the meals are made by chefs and it's not assembly line cooking. It's not large batches. It's a chef and a team and they're cooking like how they would cook in a restaurant. And there's just many of them and they're independent. I also see a shift going from meal kits to ready to eat. I think for whatever reason, that I think the sort of meal kit experience, we're kind of over that as a market, it seems, as consumers, right? And I think I talked a bit about like the health and macro bit, right? I think that's evolving to be a bit more intelligent. It's not just low calorie, it's about the quality of protein, the quantity of protein, the ratio of saturated fat and carbs, GLP-1 forward meals. So I think people are both expecting and getting very, very nuanced on their demand. So I think all of that is happening. And then the king remains variety, always. I think people want options, even with all of these constraints they have. So I think people just don't want only meal delivery anymore. They want restaurant grade food without the reservations and no matter what constraints they have.
Any thing I didn't mention yet that you're excited for in the works for CookUnity, or any areas we didn't touch on yet?
Yeah, I think, a couple of things. So we talked a lot about the consumer business, right? Which is growing really rapidly. I think, we continue to grow at like anywhere between 60 to 70% year over year, even at this scale. But we're expanding post that as well, which is exciting. So we've made a few acquisitions. So we acquired this company called Fresh, right? Which has smart fridges, which we supply with our food. And that is how we're going to tackle or actually address and serve the B2B market, right? So we're meeting consumers where they are. So if you're at home, you can sign up for subscription. We're going to launch a couple of other models as well soon. If you're in the office, there's a CookUnity fridge. You can just go sign up, pick a meal of a chef of your choice and take it from there. So really investing more in those B2B front ends and methods of delivery, more in B2B partnerships as well. For example, we did a recent partnership with Airbnb, right? So if you're an Airbnb traveler, we've piloted this in a couple of cities and the process of scaling. But if you're a traveler, you're about to check in or you check in, Now, in the Airbnb app, you can get some of the best meals from your local chef delivered to the Airbnb you're staying in, right? So you see the common thread here. We're trying to meet customers where they are. You're in office, we have an option. You're at home, we have an option. You're traveling, we have an option. And really the goal is to meet the customer where they are and build and solidify and scale each of those bridges.
Well, it's definitely a very exciting time over there, and I'm excited to continue following your story and see the growth. Thank you so much, Alok. That was all our interview questions, but I do like to wrap up with a few fun ones. We call
Sure.
it, Did You Leave Room for Dessert, if that's all right.
I love it. Yeah.
Awesome. So a few fun questions we have for you. Let's see. What is one dish that you've never personally tried, but would be willing to sample? And this could be something kind of crazy like alligator or something much more simple.
Oh my God. You know what? I've always been kind of on the fence on this, which is rabbit.
Okay.
I mean, it's 50-50 because I'm very experimental with food, so I want to try it. And then sometimes I think about how cute that rabbit is, and I'm like, maybe I shouldn't. So maybe rabbit will be the next one. Yeah.
I agree with that. I agree. If you could have a meal kit hand prepared for you by any chef, dead or alive, who would you select and why?
Oh, okay. Maybe I'm gonna cheat on this answer a little bit. It has to be my grandmom, my mom's mom. Yeah, I mean, she passed away like a decade ago, but I definitely grew up on her cooking. I used to spend a lot of weekends at her place, and I know everyone is biased towards the grandmoms or moms, maybe, but I really thought she was a special chef, and I think my love for food comes from her. I think she was not only very good, she was super efficient at it. Like she solved for time and money and taste, and it was very unique how she pulled it off. So yeah,
Grandmothers know best, and they're
I
they're the
agree.
best
I
cooks. So,
agree.
well, just one last one for you. If you personally had to design and prepare a meal for CookUnity customers, what dish and size would you make, or what is kind of some of your favorite meals, I suppose?
Okay, so there's two Indian dishes that I really like cooking, and would probably be that. So I just mentioned my grandmother. One is her recipe. It's a very spicy prawn curry. I'm from the Mumbai region in India, which is a coastal region, has a very particular type of spice attached to it, and she had her own masala that she created. So that would be one for sure. It's a family recipe. I know that. And the other one is it's a Kashmiri mutton Rogan Josh. Mutton is like goat meat, but I guess you could make it with lamb too. I think those would be the two that I would put on the menu. I love cooking them. Sometimes it takes hours for the mutton, but I wake up early on a Sunday sometimes, and it takes like 4 or 5 hours, and it's a great day.
I love it. Well, it's lunchtime over here in Minneapolis, so you're making me hungry, but all right. Well, thank you so much, Alec. That was everything we had for you today. And as mentioned, we're excited to continue to follow the CookUnity journey. Thank you for coming on the
Thank you so
podcast.
much. Thank you so much, Bonita. It's always awesome chatting with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I hope you all listening enjoyed the conversation as much as I did. I look forward to you joining us in another 2 weeks for the next Food on Demand podcast. Co-host Hans will be back in action. But please reach out to us with any suggestions or guest ideas at info@foodondemand.com. Thank you.